Right.
Talking Who?
Hello.
Wow. It's always like
Talking
a real
Who.
shock when we're live. Isn't it?
I know, yes,
Does it work?
well.
Are we really alive?
Yes.
It's been a while since we've been together as a threesome.
Yes.
Yes, actually.
Well, on screen anyway.
Yeah.
My name is Cameron K. McEwan, and introducing
Elisar Cabrera
as
the Twitter reader type guy person.
and introducing Sean Harry as.
Sean Harry.
How have you been?
Not too bad. How you been?
I've been all right. Yesterday I spoke to Bernard Cribbins.
Did you?
Yeah.
He's still alive.
Yeah. Whoa, he's a very sprightly 84-year-old. Yeah, we had a good old chat.
Somebody who crosses a whole swathe of Doctor Who. I mean, he was in a lot of David Tennant's episodes, but he was also appeared opposite Peter Cushing.
Yes, well, later on we're going to discuss the Dalek Blu-rays.
Yes, that's coming out on Blu-ray.
On Monday.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of catching them. They're very beautiful. We'll come to those later. And maybe talk about Bernard Cribbins. Shall we get the Doctor Who news out of the way?
Let's do Doctor Who news.
What's the biggest...
Whatever that news type thing is. I don't know.
You feeling okay?
Wow. What is the big news this week?
Well, Series 34, a.k.a. Series 8, is confirmed.
Like any of us really had a doubt it was actually going
exactly.
to happen.
So I guess that means BBC are sorted for 2014 and 2015 now, the Doctor Who episodes.
Bit of satire there from...
The question being, though, I mean, this season, and especially for the 50th anniversary season, has seen a massive drop in ratings.
Yes.
Well, it's not a massive drop. It's a massive drop in the over... Don't give me the... Hey, there'll be people out there... I'll just point out that if you take into account...
Oh, if you take into account iPlayer,
if you take into account everything...
BBC Three... It still had a drop in ratings.
It's still a drop, but not too much the BBC would concern. But the
what I thought to myself was when I saw the ratings, I thought there's no way the BBC aren't going to commission a season 8, a season 9, or a season 10.
Yeah,
But what I could see them saying, is taking Moffat aside or some other people aside, saying, "Look, what do we do to get it back up to the ratings it used to have 3 or 4 years ago?
Get David Tennant back."
Get Billy Piper back for one episode to show on the anniversary weekend and then not show any more for a whole year.
Wow. I believe, and I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to anyway, I believe 2 series have been commissioned.
I could believe that easily.
And Moffat is here for both. But the BBC in that statement, well, it wasn't really a statement because it was just something they put on the official website, doesn't actually state that Matt Smith is still there. Now
But he did. Is that right?
Well, you want to know something? When they say this kind of stuff, these people very often say a lot of bull. And are we still on?
We are.
Right. And very often they're not going to say whether they've signed on for another year,
correct,
or if they haven't signed on for another year until it's the right moment for the BBC. I mean, if Matt Smith has decided to leave as Doctor Who and they're replacing him, the BBC might not want an announcement made until the replacement's signed up.
Yeah.
Or alternative, they might even, who knows, maybe John Hurt is replacing Matt Smith.
Maybe.
And so they wouldn't want to announce that until November 23rd. Or maybe Matt Smith is doing another season, but there could be a whole lot of reasons why it hasn't been announced.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's cause for too much concern, but his comment of I'm filming through to next year or whatever, I wouldn't actually believe he signed up for another series until the BBC say he signed up for another series, as I wouldn't believe he isn't signed up for another series until the BBC say he isn't signed up for another series.
Yeah, Jenna Louise Coleman has said that she is. But who knows, when these people say things like nobody believes anything.
Well, I mean, Matt's contract is coming up.
November 1st.
Like any agent, his agent will probably be waiting right until the deadline.
Yeah,
because
but they will have a thing. They will have a thing that they will have to, when they start filming the Christmas special, which he is contracted to do. they're going to want to know whether it's a Christmas special or a Christmas and New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
They have to make a decision. His contract might be up till November 1st, but there is going to be a cut-off point where he is going to have to make a decision whether he stays or goes.
Would you want him to stay or would you want him to go?
I would like him to stay.
Okay.
And the reason I would like him to stay is I think that there's a point where an actor is playing the Doctor and he becomes more used to the role, gets more out of the role. And we had Christopher Eccleston for 1 season. And he himself has admitted if he had stayed for 3 or 4 years, he would have found new depths in the character. David Tennant stayed for 3 and a bit seasons, 3 seasons and 4 or 5 specials. And again, I felt that David Tennant could have still wrung a bit more out the character. And I've got very used to Matt's performance as the Doctor. I could use it, and it is a bit jarring when they're constantly changing the Doctor. And I also do disagree with this whole Troughton. Everybody goes on about what Troughton says is you do 3 years and then you go. When Troughton was doing it, you worked 45 weeks a year filming an episode in a week. At the moment, they now spend 6 months of the year doing an episode over 2 weeks. So and they also usually have one episode which is usually main Doctor light. So it's not quite the punishing schedule it was. And both Tennant and Matt Smith have found time within the show to go off and do other things. He's just done a film in Hollywood. Last year he did some other dramas for BBC and on television. So he is in a position where he can expand his CV as an actor, do other things. But I would definitely like to see another year or 2 out of him.
Talking of his movie that he's currently filming in Hollywood, have you seen the pictures of his hair?
All buffed up,
Yes,
like
it's all
an
shaved.
incredible matte.
I think he's actually got shorter hair than me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't he?
Oh, you do have hair. Sometimes I think you're completely bald. In every department. No, I'm joking, of course.
Only his wife knows.
Oh,
the extent of all
he's
of
married.
19 Sci-Fi 73 says, I know the Sun or Star said he was coming back, but you must consider that source.
Yeah, it was. I think it was.
Who's coming back?
It was actually the Sun
Matt Smith.
that said Matt Smith had
You
signed
want to
up.
know something? The Sun is also the one who announced that Matt
I know
Smith
he was going.
leaving.
I know
I
it's
mean,
kind of funny, but anything for a lovely story.
L4T Productions asks, have you guys heard the ridiculous rumour that the title of the 50th is the 2.5 Doctors?
I haven't heard that rumor because
that
I think you just made that up.
I don't believe that for
But that's nice.
second.
That would be quite a funny,
Well, we can't really have a 3
sitcom.
Doctors because we've had a 3 Doctors.
Well, 2.5 Doctors. They could do it like 2.5 Men.
2.5
They do a
John
a
Hurt is
Children
like
in
the Sun.
Needs.
No, they'll get that guy
Man,
from
man,
Jim will
many
fix it.
They'll be going, Doctors,
I'm
Doctors,
not
Doctors,
being-
Doctors.
Are we
From
allowed?
a fixed in the Sontarans.
Hold on. Are we allowed to mention Jim will fix it?
Well, there was a fix with the
Yes.
Sontarans in which you had like a 7-year-old doctor.
What was his name?
Gareth Jones
Yeah,
was or
that's-
something
yeah,
like
I
that.
think
Who's
so.
now on the convention circuit.
Yeah.
And no doubt down the police station having a chat with them about exactly what went on.
If anyone from the BBC is watching,
If
hello.
well, Marie Parsons asks, I want to see him stay for at least half of season 8. That gets past the whole, oh my god, what's going on with the 50th? I mean, if they were to change Doctor,
They're not going to
Is
change it at the 50th. I can tell you that now. It would be...
but if it was in the next series, do you think we could do something mid-series?
They've done it before. William Hartnell changed into Patrick Troughton
was-
in the
yeah,
second
almost.
story
Still
of
fairly
the
early,
4th series. And
I mean, you had Davison
Peter
at the
Davison
end.
changed. But I actually think that was actually what killed Colin Baker as a Doctor. Because what you had was, you had 5 Peter Davison stories, then you had 1 Colin Baker story in which he was presented as a prat throughout it in this dreadful costume, and then you had a break for how many months? And so nobody had a chance to warm to his character. And by the time
before somebody
Yeah.
complains, it was 6 stories. But
oh,
just before somebody,
Yes.
you know,
I was just because there used to be 6 seasons. I forgot
Yeah.
that under Nathan Turner, instead of 5 4-parters and a 6-parter, you got 6 4-parters and a 2-parter. But yeah, so
well,
I
that's an interesting way of looking at it. The
Yeah.
fact that because I think they thought it was going to be beneficial to give Colin that lead in.
I
but
don't think it did. I think
no.
because
Well, it's just the thing is his first episode was so bad. That,
yes, and I
people
think
instantly turned
then
off.
by the time it got to Attack of the Cybermen, people had already made their
Yeah.
opinion of him, and I do think that, you know, if I was just basing my opinion on Matt Smith or David Tennant based on their first episode, it'd be very difficult. And even giving them 4 or 5, I do think you need a season to build up properly. And
so that was the big news. Series 8,
Yes.
exciting. And
I thought it was exciting news that it's kind of like it's not a missing episode has been found but is being reconstructed. That they've now announced another story is being animated. And we're getting Moonbase coming out at the end of the year, which is one of my, I'm not a huge fan of the Hartnell era, but I have
I can't do this show anymore. I'm going.
You're walking.
I didn't say I didn't like it, but what remains of the Hartnell era? What of Troughton? What remains of the Troughton era is you get the impression is not probably his best hours, as it were, and what remains of the 2 episodes of Moonbase they're kind of like classic but they're actually formative of that classic base under siege kind of story. It really cements the Cybermen, so I'm very much looking forward to watching that story as a whole.
Speaking of missing episodes, online has surfaced the Underwater Menace Part 2.
Yes.
It's surfaced online because they found it and it's coming out, but somebody's stuck it online.
That's not
rather illegally.
That's they're going to get a lawyer's letter to very soon.
But I enjoyed downloading it and watching it.
Well,
it's really good. It's really fun.
Nothing has been said, but I would assume, seeing as that they're animating Moonbase,
yes,
I would be willing to lay money that we will get animated reconstructions of the Underwater Menace and perhaps maybe the Crusade as well. But that would kind of like, I think, be our lot, because all the rest of the incomplete stories are too
there's too many episodes. Later on, we'll be revealing some exclusive news, perhaps, about missing, not missing episodes,
Well, there's the missing episode of Talking Who from last week.
I wasn't on it, so I don't care.
I think someone's been hacking our system.
Yeah, your system. To do with the Ice Warriors animation.
Yeah.
Some very exciting news.
Yes.
I'm looking at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we can maybe reveal that later. Was there any other news this week? Chris Chibnall, speaking, this is
that's today, wasn't it?
Yeah. He revealed on 5 Live that he's not going to be the new showrunner. So he says.
Well, if Moffat has just signed on for 2 more years,
makes sense.
He could still be.
Going to be the new.
And he said that he has been approached to write an episode for Series 8, but they're not sure. He doesn't know if his schedule can fit it in, so they're still trying to work this out, which suggests to me that Series 8 has still got quite a little bit to go. I'm
sure they're still putting it together. I'm sure they're still putting feelers out with writers, see who's available, see who's got ideas.
Oddly enough, usually when a series is finished at this point, they'd actually already be filming the new series. But they haven't even started filming the Christmas episode.
No.
Yet.
And it's going to be a while. It's going to be August, September.
I was about to say, it does lead me to believe that the new series of Doctor Who will start September next year.
If I were a betting man, I would agree.
And I would bet that it will start filming probably February, March period next year.
Well, I would say January, February. So, Elisar, do you want to hump in on that?
I would assume
I would agree.
I'd assume they're going to be putting their feelers out. They'll probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and get Neil Gaiman to write another episode.
I'm sure they will, absolutely.
Because he's a very high profile, internationally high, because I mean he's a writer who, you put his name on something that's airing in America, they're going to know who he is.
I would like to see him do it, but Nightmare in Silver didn't light the screen.
Yeah.
And he has made some remarks about the amount of rewrites he had to do on it.
And also the amount that was cut out.
Yeah,
that was actually filmed, but didn't actually make the cut.
What would be nice is if they. What I would like to see next season. My biggest problem this season is the lack of 2-parters.
Yeah.
And the number of episodes, and a very good example is Nightmare in Silver. That as you watch, you think to yourself, that just seems so rushed. That if it had actually been given 2 parts, I think it would have worked so much more better, and I think much more of it would have worked.
And if they'd replaced some of the cast and some of the story points, I think if they'd thought about the story a bit more, it might work. But he has said, Neil Gaiman has said that he would like to do another story and create a new monster. That's what he said he wanted to do.
Well, everybody wants to create a new monster because then you get a bit of extra revenue if it's popular and every time. But you just have to make sure the design is actually, because to be honest, actually. Very much, I think a successful monster is not so much in the writing. It can actually very often be in the design.
Well, look at the Daleks.
These are the classic Doctor Who monsters. They've always stood up to the test of time.
Or just look at, in terms of how the fans kept on calling back for the Zygons. But just imagine, you could have actually swapped the makeup round and it wouldn't have made any difference. Use the makeup for the Kralls for the Zygons and the Zygons for the Kralls, and everybody would have been going, bring the Kralls back! They look fantastic! And don't bring back the Zygons. It would have been like, it's very much... I know the writers are always looking to create a new Dalek, but really, I think the success of the Dalek wasn't with Terry Nation. It was with Raymond.
I was very impressed that the new Star Trek film, they kept the design of the Tribble very.
Okay, can I just stop? A, you're talking about Star Trek, and B, there's a Tribble in Star Trek.
There's a Tribble in Star Trek.
In the new film,
but we have to assume it's been sterilised because there's only one Tribble, and there's still only one Tribble by the end of the film. So I think they've actually sterilised.
Well, it's one of those. They actually regularly sterilise Tribbles, and they send them off to William Shatner, who puts them on his head.
Oh, so Chibnall could be writing for 7, but possibly not if he's Broadchurch's schedule.
Yeah, he might be
what did I say?
busy.
You said 7,
sorry.
He might be too busy.
Well, for him, Broadchurch is obviously a more important.
That's more important to him, absolutely.
Thing.
Bigger ratings than Doctor Who.
Not the same, I would have thought. But
I'm going to make this noise for a little bit longer.
Well, that could is that because Doctor Who's not as good, or is that the Tennant factor?
I would say that Broadchurch is better than Doctor Who. That series.
What were the ratings for 11th Hour?
Matt Smith's first episode.
Because it had Olivia Colman in it.
It was very high, the 11th hour, so maybe
that
it's the
Colman
effect.
Yes.
Stuart Wareham asks, so basically we won't see Series 8 until autumn 2014.
Yeah,
which does then pushes it. Do you then think it could then be pushed into 2014-2015?
No, I will bet money that the next season, Series 8, will be done like this year was, that we will have so many September through to October, 5 or 6 episodes, then the rest.
Well, I would be surprised if they did it like that, because the BBC don't want that to happen. They want the full run.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised if there was less episodes, maybe 12 or 10. But I think they do not want to split up, and I think that maybe there's a gap.
I think the whole numbering system of the series was completely thrown. This whole part 1 and part 2 just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like it's the same series. It's 2 different series.
Indeed. Let us know your thoughts on that. Later we'll be talking about the Dalek movies, but I guess we should review and talk about Saturday's episode
of the Doctor, which, as I predicted, we would not find out the name of the Doctor.
I think everybody predicted that, although it was spoken by River Song.
But it was spoken to River Song at the end of last season.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, who cares about his name?
Yeah.
It's Theta Sigma, as we all know.
It was another episode where we were being told by Moffat that this was going to change everything. And then at the end of the episode, I was like, how does it change?
It's all gone back to the status quo.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine, a rather romantic friend of mine, a male romantic friend of mine.
Yes.
I'll rephrase that. I'm not having a romance with this male friend. He took that quote from Stephen Moffat, that changes everything, was his revelation to River, that he did indeed love her, and that kiss and that passionate moment. That was his definition of changing everything. Dan, if you're watching, hi. He won't be. It's fine. But that's what he thought by he meant changes everything.
Well, I suppose we'll come back to when we discuss the actual contents of the story, whether or not things are changed or not.
Yeah.
But this was the best episode of the series.
I was about to say it was one of the better episodes this season.
And you kind of felt, I felt anyway, that it was just such a shame that suddenly you just felt this is where you want to watch the series be now, and we've just
one of the things I'll definitely give, and I thought it was a perfect way to end it. I felt that one thing about Moffat that I'll give him is we've been complaining about there's too many episodes where you don't feel the story can breathe within one episode. Moffat is actually probably the only writer, I think, since the show's start, since The Girl in the Fireplace, who can write an episode that perfectly fits within the 42 minutes that the story's supposed to exist within. And it didn't feel too long, it felt perfectly at a 42-minute story. It gave,
despite repeating various scenes over and over again.
And it felt very satisfactory solution
Yeah.
to this impossible companion.
But yeah. If we talk about, I mean, there's not much of a story to it in terms of plot.
There's not. I'm just talking about as you what you
Yeah.
wrote something with. It engaged me for 40 for the exact length of time.
This was about his characters.
And at the end of the story, I didn't feel stuff had been rushed or stuff wasn't properly explained.
Although
it worked within the time limit it was supposed to work within.
Some people were slightly bemused that the whole silence and Trenzalore thing.
Well, this is the thing. How does Dorian? How do these people know about Trenzalore?
Well, I thought everybody would know about, if the Doctor's buried.
But this is in his future.
Yeah, but everybody who's in that future would talk about time travelers, and he's dealing here with the great intelligence.
I suppose the question then becomes: is that actually?
And it might be in his future, but it might be in a battle that he has 65 million years in the past.
It might actually.
But actually, is this even a real future? Because inside.
You're going to blow our minds,
the
aren't you?
tomb is the current TARDIS.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So are we assuming that this is TARDIS is never going to change, or are we stuck in some sort of paradoxal bubble? We're just in this particular moment.
I thought that wasn't a good. I thought it'd have been better to have a TARDIS that was
unseen.
Like a
and
kind
you could
of
have done
TARDIS.
something that the TARDIS itself is like now it's aged inside, it's crumbling apart, and you could have had something that was reminiscent of the TARDIS, but you could tell that. Or
because it is a TARDIS, which is just a time capsule, it just reverts to essentially a very plain, un-desktop themed version of itself, like they showed when William Hart, the first Doctor, actually steals the TARDIS, and Jenna comes to say, "Pick this one." There's no camouflage. It's just.
I wish they kept it looking like a Sid rat. Actually,
can we discuss that plot point there that Clara?
Which completely contradicts
the Doctor's wife, which said she chose him. Not only did she not choose him, she had nothing to do with it.
So that's why it was a game changer?
Yes.
That's the game changer.
The phrase game changing.
The game changer was Clara put the Doctor and the TARDIS together.
Well, the other thing which got me...
You've been drinking.
The other thing that got me in this episode was that the bad guy is the Great Intelligence.
Yes, the Schalke Doctor.
So we've got the Great Intelligence returning and effectively willing to sacrifice itself to destroy the Doctor for all the past defeats. And I kind of thought to myself...
Not that many past defeats.
The Great Intelligence fought the Doctor twice in the Troughton eras and then came back for the... And I actually felt the episode would have been better and the fans would have enjoyed it more if they brought... And he wanted to do one, apparently, if they brought back John Sim as the Master. Because... I could actually see, and especially the John Sim Master, who's kind of slightly psychotic, I could see him willing to sacrifice himself if it destroys the entire legacy of the Doctor. And I just felt that would have worked a lot better.
Can we put a pin in John Sim, and we'll come back to him in a second.
Okay.
But I totally agree with the Great Intelligence, because they don't seem like that kind of a being that has been pissed off by the Doctor that much.
And I always felt the Great Intelligence was an amoral, logical... thing of knowledge. So if the Doctor's defeated it, it wouldn't be out for revenge or self-sacrifice to destroy it. It would just go on to its next plan.
But also, I mean, we've established the timeline of the Great Intelligence.
Yeah.
As far as the Great Intelligence is concerned,
this has to be the Great Intelligence.
He meets him in the Victorian era,
yes,
and then goes on to fight him in the 1960s.
Yes.
Obviously, for the Doctor, it's reversed. The Doctor fights him first.
Yeah.
But then why does the Great Intelligence know about Trenzalore and the future?
Well, it's the Great Intelligence.
Yeah, man.
So it was a bit of a waste, I think, of the Great Intelligence, because you'd been building him up, and he just kills himself like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, really?
Yeah, it just seemed to be
flat.
all...
It was a slightly flat ending for that.
Yeah, because that wasn't the ending of the story, but it did feel like, well, this is the baddie. I was like, oh... And now he's gone. All right, so great.
But I've got to give also, I think props have to be given to Niamh McIntosh.
Lovely Niamh.
But that point when the Great Intelligence sacrifices itself to destroy the Doctor, and there's kind of like 5 minutes where she's holding the plot together, and I think she really does a fantastic. I mean, the fans, and I felt this, if anything, was yet another advertisement for that those three need their own show.
Yeah.
And that would work great, whether Moffat has the time to do it or whether the BBC are willing to throw the budget.
I think they could get somebody better than Stephen Moffat to write it.
Yeah, but he's created them, so... But it's still, there was just... the three of them were so good.
Yeah, they were really good.
And they each had their own. And what was nice, they each had their own little moment.
Yeah.
And
they're quite definable characters. Even Jenny's a definable character.
I felt this was her best one.
Yeah.
And the sequence when she realised she was dead.
I think I've been murdered.
I thought that was wonderful.
No, it
Very
was really
well
nice
played.
because the whole scene, although I had my slight problem with the name of the name of the doctor was the fact that it just seemed to be everybody sitting down having a conversation. Yes. And they were going to go over here and have a conversation. They were lying down having a conversation. It was all very talky. But that scene when they're sitting at the table and then the whisper men with their stupid rhymes come into the house, it was very well done. It was creepy. And lovely Jenny. Poor lovely Jenny. I put a pin in John Sim.
Yes.
I met John Sim on Friday.
Did you?
I had a... Can I say piss?
We've said it.
Well, you said it already.
Right.
So.
I was in a urinal beside him.
Oh, really? He was actually in a urinal?
Yeah, I was at the screening of his new series, Mad Dogs.
Surprising.
Why?
Well,
He's still in the toilet.
The Mark Shepard advice about celebrities in the toilet? What is that? Do you
I
remember?
have no idea. What? Don't
Mark,
ask them for
well, Mark
stuff.
Shepard tells other celebrities he goes on the convention desk, whatever public, is that you never use the urinal because in these days and age, you've got people with phones. You'll never know when people are clicking pictures. So even if you're just taking a piss, as a celebrity, you should be going into the closet.
Okay.
Well, seeing all your name dropping at the moment, I was shopping in John Lewis this afternoon, and I saw Mila Kunis in there. Okay, so I'm going to.
Well, I saw Heston Blumenthal in.
Right. Well, can I go back to my
as well.
John
He was in
Sim
John Lewis
story?
yesterday.
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sure John felt comfortable because it was a press screening, so it's fine.
So was he 2 Polaroids or 1 Polaroid?
We had a chat anyway. Lovely John Sim, and he's shorter than me, which I was very surprised to see. All the
which areas?
Height.
Well, you were in the urinal.
I didn't look at his extension.
Extension.
Yes, I was going to say penis, and then I better not.
Was it bigger on the inside?
Back to the subject.
Yes. Philip Glenister was there as well.
So did you ask John Sim when you're coming back as the master?
No, I didn't really get the chance to.
You can't talk about Doctor Who with John Sim.
Yeah.
I've been informed because I recorded an interview with him, which you can watch on Ethical Hedonist TV if you're looking for it. It's a 3-part interview with
Ethical
John Sim.
Hedonist.
Yes, and one of the rules was do not ask about Doctor Who.
Are you allowed to say that?
Well,
you've said it now.
You've said it.
We're revealing everything.
I think the fact that there's no questions about Doctor Who probably says that we can ask about Doctor Who.
But sick and tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. Well, he was in very good form, very smart. Although they were all drinking.
The questions are always the same, aren't they? Are you going to come back? So you can understand why. Because
Jonathan Ross asked them earlier this year, and he was very happy to answer.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I can understand it must be really frustrating as someone who's done an iconic character. That any time that anybody wants to ask you a question is when are you coming back at the Master?
But surely that's good. Rather,
so
what would you rather have? People saying when you come back at the Master, or would you rather have people saying, "Can you please recast the Master"?
Yeah,
you want it because people liked your work and they want more of it.
It should be a thing to
so you should be happy about that. How many other actors can say that?
Exactly. He'll come back as a Master when he gets a call, and I don't think to constantly.
But it's still nice. It's still nice for an actor. I mean, how often do you think Colin Baker has people say to him when you're coming back as the Doctor?
That's completely different.
Because people. It's when people want to see you back, as opposed to they don't want to see you back. So it's getting a nice confirmation that you did a good job.
We're halfway through our review of the Name of the Doctor.
Yes, so
let's go to the comments.
Let's talk to the comments. Okay. Ben Rogers, the Whispermen design was a blatant rip-off of the Trickster from the Sarah Jane Adventures. Someone should sue.
I mean, I wonder.
Yeah, BBC should sue the BBC.
It was Gareth Roberts that created the story that the Trickster was in. So.
L4
but yes, it does look.
I did love the Whispermen, though. I feel we need to learn more about them. No doubt Moffat will bring them back over and over again.
But the Whispermen are just manifestations of Dr. Simeon as the great
intelligence. I was a bit. You say Moffat will bring them back again and again. It's like I was very surprised this year. The silence.
Well, people were expecting that in the finale.
Very, very and I thought, did I get something wrong? I thought that the TARDIS blew up at 2 years ago, not last season, the season before. The inference was that it was the silence or somebody else had done that, and there was this inference and then that whole thing seems to be very
Stephen
much...
Moffat in a Radio Times interview said it was the silence that blew the TARDIS
Yeah, but it
up.
was kind of like, it was still...
Well, we still don't know.
Something else was going to happen
we don't,
from
if
all
you were
of
just
this,
judging it on the TV show, you wouldn't know
Yeah.
that they had. But because the silence were linked to Trenzalore,
Yeah.
people were naturally thinking, well, they're going to be... But no, it seems like it's another Moffat thing he's picked up and then...
But
dropped.
also,
I felt the silence were very much built up as if this was going to be the new bad guy. I didn't know how they got their jackets on. Because they had these thin arms and these big hands, and I couldn't see how they got their... but
I don't even know why they would wear jackets. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like a very human outfit to wear for...
But I was
For an alien.
I was still expecting them back this season. They
Yeah.
didn't come back, and it was almost like I felt like a plot thread had been started by Moffat,
I
and then
think
he
so.
lost interest in it. And
And then we got the Great Intelligence, that ran for a wee bit.
Personally, I mean, I was sold on
well, I
this.
do feel if the Great Intelligence doesn't come back, I won't be like, why hasn't it come back? It's kind of like I feel like its story's told.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sold on this episode just from the very start because I just, the clips of the classic Doctor.
Oh, we haven't even got to that. The clip. I mean,
it just warmed your heart. It warmed your heart.
It was very funny. The other.
Sorry.
All right.
Elfie, we'll get to the lovely clips and references and introducing the ending. L4T Productions says, I'm having trouble working out the GI's timeline. Even dismissing the classic stories doesn't make sense. More to come? I don't think there's more to come. I think that's it with the Great Intelligence.
I think it probably will be, yeah. Although, having said that, if this is Trenzalore, which is in the future, surely if he's not a time traveller, we've still got potential stories prior to him
but
killing himself.
we're never going to get to Trenzalore.
Marie Parsons says, changing everything equals the Doctor was taken by choice, and that somehow a darker choice was made. The Dream Lord was not lame. There may be a very dark side to the cheery, whimsical Doctor.
But that was already established. There was the Valiard.
Yeah, the boatyard. Nice to see the Valiard.
Just kick the camera.
Sorry.
Get wow! It's very real here.
It is very real.
Yeah, the Valiard got a mention. Well, let's talk about all the other things that got.
I suppose you need to just start.
What I thought was very funny was that only a few weeks ago, it had been announced in The Sun they were going to do a Trials and Tribulations, Deep Space Nine kind of thing.
Did The Sun do that?
I think it was The Sun or some paper said that the BBC were going to do, but it was going to be for the anniversary episode. We're going to bring back all the Doctors by using old footage, and the two of us laughed at that because, of course, the old footage is on videotape. It's now shot on high definition.
Well, the big thing was because it was 3D, but yeah.
Yes, but here they are. They used for this old footage. It did look
but
very
their
ropey
source obviously
footage.
got something. They may have got the actual,
Although they
thing
used
wrong
some
about
old,
when it was going to be, but they've actually got the information.
Old clips into the show to give the impression of Clara interacting with all the previous Doctors, and then they had a bunch of some bad cosplayers running past her in a pit with the camera not quite hitting their heads, only at shoulder height as they just ran past for no reason whatsoever.
Do you think they should have made Clara black and white and just kept William Hartnell black and white? Do you think it made sense to colorise it?
Yes.
The one thing which got me in that scene was when Russell T Davies did a flashback to Gallifrey. It felt very much the Gallifrey fit in with the Gallifrey that had been previously seen on classic Doctor Who. This episode starts off with two TARDIS repairmen as the TARDIS is being stolen, and it just seemed very incongruous with the clip itself. I think it seemed like very modern sci-fi.
It was very modern, and Gallifrey isn't modern. I think. I mean, even though they have this technology,
and it didn't even look to me like it would have been Gallifrey. It looked to me. It reminded me of Journey to the Centre. The three guys in Journey to the Centre of just a junkyard of a bunch of.
Wasn't the eyewear? Was that not from the War Games?
But I just think they could have done a better job doing something which was a bit more steampunkish in its kind of look, which would have gone with the kind of like feel of something that was like Victoriana kind of look. Maybe still messy, maybe still, these aren't Time Lords, these are TARDIS repairmen. I think it would have been nice if one had said to the other one, "Oi, Drax, look at this," or something like would have been a nice little, but I just felt the look of it was wrong. But then the clip itself was excellent. But then again, I'd always felt that the Doctor and Susan had stolen the TARDIS when they were much younger, because they talk about all these other adventures that they've had before they've... And
But we don't know how long it takes them to age.
oh, of course, but
I mean,
yeah.
you know, he's presumably... But it's interesting.
And I was
because
also why
you've
they
now-
dressed like
you've
that. I
now
would have thought
got-
he would have been in his
You now have...
Prydonian robes.
You now have...
What is
know-
it, heliotrope of the
Well, that's
Prydonian
interesting.
Academy?
Could he have actually had different clothes on as opposed to the, you know?
Well, it's what
But,
you can do.
but
with
you
it,
have
like,
now. You
got.
now have it established in that Susan is there on Gallifrey with him.
Well, I've always said when people have tried to discount Susan, when the show was originally created, Susan Foreman was his granddaughter. No ifs, no buts. And William Hartnell and Carol Ann Ford played it as grandfather and granddaughter.
And they were both aliens as well.
Yes, and there's, I don't think there's any way you can get around that. I don't think you can retcon it or anything like that. Susan Foreman is the Doctor's granddaughter. And, I think it's stupid to try and deny that.
Some people don't like the thought of the Doctor having a rumpy pumpy.
Aren't they all loons?
Speaking of the Doctor having rumpy pumpy, we'll get to that later. So I loved it when you saw Billy Hartnell. Well,
Billy Hartnell
going into the TARDIS, and then you actually
clips
saw
especially were really, really good.
But I mean, it was a brilliant start. Let's not get.
It was great, and it was very exciting.
It
was. It was very nice in the 50th anniversary year to have that kind of like heart back to
this was it.
I couldn't get over
the 50th anniversary.
The Sixth Doctor looked so slim. I was like, what's happened? Has he been on a starvation diet?
Well, he did the thing with Mel, the carriages.
Right.
That was then.
But aside from that, it was it was great to see all, and that was actually I was doing. I'm sure a lot of other fans are doing that as well. Guess what? The clip was going. Oh, that's the Invasion of Time, and
Dragonfire.
That's from Dragonfire.
Arc of Infinity. The one that I didn't like was the Peter Davison one, because being a huge Peter Davison fan, that wasn't.
I think they were kind of like stuck with trying to get clips that. They because also you got the problem, as I said, it was shot. The series was shot in video.
Yeah,
and I think that was a perfect clip for them to be able to use and get away with the quality drop.
But with Davison, with Baker, there are 16mm clips available.
Yeah, but whether they will fit within
the problem with
context.
Davison particularly is because he has so many companions to get him by himself. It's quite tricky. Disappointing at the start though. There was no Eccleston or Tennant.
There wasn't even. Was there a McGann? At the
There is a very brief McGann
because I didn't
with
notice
Troughton.
I didn't notice that, and I wondered if that was a 20th Century Fox copyright.
Well, I think it is, and I think it's actually a shame that they didn't use it, because it's like, if they can't use that clip in the US version, fine, just cut it out for the US broadcast. But why should the rest of the world not have a clip of McGann properly, which they could have done?
Well, I think, that is problematic if there's DVD rights and stuff, but. He was there very briefly, so he ran.
I did see him when he runs past it, but I'm just meant like a clip.
Yeah. Well, they didn't all get clips, so but no Tennant and no Eccleston.
There was no Tennant
at the start.
which I actually wondered if that's because he's coming back.
I think that's probably more to do with the fact that.
And then the big reveal.
But she does count them. She counts every single one.
That's the problem. That's the thing that doesn't make sense is the fact that they're all there,
and she
apart
counts
from
every
Tennant
single
to the
one.
end.
Yeah. And she even knows what order they are somehow.
But
she doesn't. She just says 11 faces. Seriously.
But then we have the big reveal at the end.
What was the big reveal, Elisar? Do you want
John Hurt is the Doctor.
Dun, dun,
as the Doctor.
Dun.
Yes.
This scene was directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
What an interesting,
well-known CSI director.
So do you think it was Christopher Eccleston standing there?
No, I knew it was John Hurt.
I mean, the Sun had already revealed that John Hurt was going to be.
No, the big question.
Yeah.
Now the big question is.
The Sun actually.
John Hurt had revealed it.
Hurt had revealed it as well.
You know what's funny about that story? It was me that picked up on it because it was from a little local paper.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm part of the
a triumvirate."
No, I'm part of the Doctor, a kind of trinity.
Yeah.
With other people.
Well,
and then the bloody Sun and everybody else.
One thing I was wondering if this is the Doctor who killed all the Daleks and the Time Lords in the Time Law, and because of the guilt of that action, that is why he will not acknowledge that regeneration.
Is anyone else fed up with Time Lord guilt? I thought we'd got rid of it.
Well, also, I
Well, that's
thought,
what he
I
did.
thought
He just said that but I ran
Because
the
the thing with-
convention around Matt Smith called the 11th hour, and it's looking like I should have called it the 12th hour.
But see,
Dun,
the thing
dun,
about
dun.
because the thing about the Time War is that the end of times kind of destroyed the whole romanticism of this, not romanticism, but this darkness of it, because all the Time Lords was just put into a bubble away from everybody else, so they weren't really destroyed.
No, well, they are kind of at the end of it. Well, they're just put back in, but
They just
the
got
thing that
put
I loved about
into
the end
a
of time
bubble.
was the fact that describing the very last days of the Time War didn't sound like a nice.
No,
Didn't sound nice.
Well, war isn't nice.
No, that's very. Thank you. War is not nice, kids. But John Hart, nice little
War,
turnaround.
what is it good for?
Well, absolutely nothing.
well, I mean,
Say it again.
there's lots of theories going about right now. There's a lot.
Yeah.
there
Well,
are,
okay.
but-
So I think he's Adric.
Do you not think it's Clara?
No,
Really?
I really.
I think he's
No.
Adric. I think he's Adric.
yeah, Adric.
Who has come back? Who has come back with a writ against the BBC for his appearance on the Jimmy Savile show?
I think he was quite happy with that. So John Hart, is he a future Doctor? Is he a past Doctor?
He's a
or
doctor.
is he a new Doctor?
Well, that would make him a
Or
future
Or
Doctor.
is he the Boatyard?
The Valiard.
Oh, sorry, the
Because
Valiard.
I mean, the Valiant was just dropped in there.
Well, Valiard's name was dropped in.
there, so it's like, are you
Oh.
just dropping it in? Because it was also dropped in with
Storm,
the Oncoming
which
Storm, which we
he
can't-
didn't say oncoming storm. He just said
the
storm,
storm,
which
okay.
Yeah.
I thought that's a bit weird. And the Beast,
the Beast,
which
which is the creature with the big horns.
impossible
that's-
planet. I know.
So do you think that's a future regeneration
Or,
of the Doctor?
That's good if it is.
Wasn't the Beast? I thought that big blue thing with the horns as well that Morgan Le Fay called along. Oh no, that was the Destroyer.
That was a destroyer.
Yeah,
No,
good
the
though.
Beast. The Beast was that big Satan
Well,
creature
yeah.
in the Satan pit.
Yeah, he was called the Beast.
that
which
was
is, I
actually
guess-
supposed to be Sutek, wasn't it?
No, he had many. He had many names.
He had many
Yeah,
names.
but there was supposed to be an inference because they had
Just 'cause they had
Gabrielle
names.
Mortier.
The Doctor is Sutek.
Dun dun dun.
And
Wow.
introducing, and the next time we'll see it was John Hurt
Introducing
as-
John
they'll
Sutek.
cross out the Doctor and it'll say Sutek.
Yeah.
Because-
How did you feel about the introducing the Doctor title on the screen?
Well, it was kind of really weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was-
The
it was
word
very-
introducing, because
it was
can't
very-
really introduce John Hurt because he's such an established character.
But not
let's-
just
and
but not just that.
introducing
The
is
way it's
usually
done.
what-
The Doctor Who's a drama series. The way they did that at the end is something you would expect on, like, X Factor or something like that. It was really
Introducing Louis Walsh as Talisa. Yeah, it was a strange moment. But you say he's very familiar. I'm going to have to say no. To a lot of people. To a lot
John
of people.
Hurt, really?
I'm-
Come on, the guy's a
Look,
living
Come
legend.
on, John Hurt.
Are you-
He's the voice of the dragon in
Uh-huh.
Merlin. Of course,
He
they all
is
know who he
Can
is.
I just,
legend.
before the pair of you spout your middle-aged ranting, I'm not talking about me, but
Yeah.
I have seen this on Twitter and on forums, Doctor Who forums. People didn't know who John Hart was.
Well, they're
Now,
knobs.
the thing is,
There is
for,
such a
for
thing as
people of a
IMDb.
certain age, how would you know what he looks like and even the name? Now, I know we all know him. Yes, I know we do. But there's a certain generation, i.e. millions of people that watch Doctor Who, don't know who he is.
But does it still make us?
You do now.
Does it still make?
No, it
Is there
doesn't.
still
I'm
a
just
reason why you have to put John
no,
Hurt.
I'm just letting you know that not everybody knows who John Hurt is.
I think
A lot
they
of
should do
people
that for every actor who walks on set now. It's like
That would be good.
during the middle.
Introducing
of the
David Tennant as reintroducing David
Maybe
Tennant.
what it was is that,
Ingrid Oliver is the
ma-
scientist.
maybe
with the purple
Clara
scarf.
was wearing
Was good.
Google eyewear. And it just comes up when she looks at
Ah.
him. John Hurt is the Doctor.
Did you see the diatribes on Twitter and various places? The fact that John Hurt, an old man, was playing the Doctor. Some
Yeah.
people were upset because they thought this meant Matt was going, but some people were also upset, and this is genuine. And I thought somebody maybe mocked this up, but I did check on Twitter; it was real. People were upset because they could no longer fancy the Doctor. He's not an attractive
Well,
man.
I mean,
Well, because so many people wanted to shag William Hartnell.
Whoa! Did you hear what he just said? I mean, yeah. What do you want to say, Elisar?
John Hurt's a man of.
John, you're so
obviously
good looking.
He's an old gentleman.
There's no shame in that. He's an
There's
old
no shame
man.
in that, the guy's.
Well, considering that they were looking at Bill Nye at one point,
Mhm.
and God, what's his name from Four Weddings and a Funeral?
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, two old codgers there. They were
Well,
looking
Hugh
at-
Grant is a very handsome man still.
Yeah, well, whatever.
I would have, but so a lot of people were upset because he's an old doctor and people don't want that. He's not sexy.
Surely the fact that he's an evil doctor makes him.
Is he evil?
He's not evil though.
He's not evil.
He's not evil.
He's
He's just the one that
done
broke
something.
the promise.
Broke the promise. Well, he came on very menacingly.
He did. This is the thing
So-
that he did. But when he did that turn, it was sad though. Did you not feel sad?
No, I thought it was
Oh.
it was like this guy's got a plan, and somehow this has all come together. This is.
I think you're.
I think he's.
I think your reading of it's like that look in his eye was not of a man who was evil, but a man who'd done something that he felt he had to. Speaking of doing things you feel you have to. Did you see where that went? No. I was going to say
Marie
something good.
Parsons asks, "What they've never watched Alien? Interesting. I would have thought that would have been his identifying thing."
Yeah, hey, I'm just saying that's he's done loads of things, I know, but there's people who are like 20 years old that have never seen him and do anything, and there's people who've maybe heard him in Merlin
Well,
but
how many
unaware.
people
Worms.
knew who had seen Matt Smith
Well,
in anything?
exactly.
Because there was nothing to see him in.
Party animals.
Stuart Worm says maybe he's a version of the Sixth Doctor to come back to annoy Kamsi.
Did he say Kamsi?
No,
he
Cameron.
didn't say Kamsi. Yes, that's true. That would be very annoying. Although John Hurt's a better actor than Colin
John
Baker.
Hurt. This is the thing. John Hurt's a superb actor.
Yes.
But
It's gonna
could
be
John
weird.
Hurt? Could John Hurt eat as much as Colin Baker can in one sitting?
Lovely Colin Baker. Yeah, I think.
Not to be seen at the BFI anytime soon.
Well, I'm not going to say.
Marie Parsons mentions the Dream Lord, saying the Dream Lord struck me as a much darker, sinister Doctor than the Valiard, unless
Yeah.
those are the same. And after Valiard, we did not see a darker side until maybe Sylvester's Doctor. So Dream Lord.
I don't think that. I think the Dream Lord is equally as bad as the Valiard. Because the Valiard, although the thing with the Valiard and the Dream Lord, which is a bit weird, they just wanted to get the Valiard wanted to get his remaining regenerations,
Yes.
and get rid of the Doctor so he could live as himself. But the Dream Lord, and this is the curious thing about the Dream Lord, he wanted to kill the Doctor. Now, if he'd killed the Doctor, the Dream Lord he wouldn't have existed.
Yeah.
Which is a curious thing.
But of course, the story of the Valiard is he exists somewhere between the 12th and the 13th.
Yes, an amalgamation of the Doctor's dark side.
So, and of course, we actually are approaching, and if the rumours then are that that the John Hurt's Doctor is the real Ninth Doctor and Matt Smith's the 12th, then we are actually only half a step away from the Valiard.
That's if they actually go back and use that.
But you've got to remember, time's been reset so many times that
Yes.
it's yeah.
I mean, from William Hartnell saying you can't change time, not one line of it,
yeah,
to them
To
kind of like
going into your own time
Yes.
stream.
Wherever
There are a few stable points in time you're not allowed to change,
Yeah.
apparently. But
So do you think we're going to have like some Big Finish adventures, which is basically Clara versus the Great Intelligence, going through all the different stories of the Doctor?
all I can say is Big Finish, and BBC Books must be loving Moffat because all the time
Many gaps in the story.
puts so many gaps between. It's very clear that sometimes the impression is that years have gone by for the Doctor between adventures.
This is a slight problem I have with the new series, amongst many other issues, is the fact that Clara doesn't live in the TARDIS.
No, she doesn't live in the TARDIS. No,
She goes home
sometimes
after an adventure,
Yeah. I mean,
quite a lot. And I don't like that. So if you sign
drop
up,
her off.
you sign up, you get in that
Well,
TARDIS
but she's got
bedroom.
two kids to look after.
When
well,
has the TARDIS,
big-
when has the Doctor ever had such good control of the TARDIS? Firstly?
Well, this
And
yeah.
secondly,
Visitation.
there was always this sense for the companions that even though they were on this fantastic adventure, they were kind of lost, which you've never really had in the new series.
No.
But then the Doctor's kind of lost because it's home. They've swapped it around from who's lost now.
I'm a bit lost. Do we have any more comments?
Anything on Twitter?
John Hurt is
19
Hannibal Smith.
It's Hannibal
Oh, sorry.
Smith. He loves it when a plan comes together. 1973 reminds us Hugh did have his moment in
Yes.
The Curse of the Fatal Death.
He was
Yep.
good in that.
You're a number 11th top other Doctor.
No. Did you actually read it? No, you just looked at the pictures. It was the Fatal Death Doctor was the number 11. It was actually about Rowan Atkinson, but for some reason they put a picture in of all of them because I don't think they could get a decent picture of Rowan Atkinson. Yes, if you've got Den of Geek, if you're reading Den of Geek, I did a piece on 11 other Doctor Who's.
Marie Parsons adds, the Valiard to me seemed closer to a master type than the Doctor. Just my opinion, but the Dream Lord seemed that the inner darker side of the Doctor may really be running from.
I think they're both bad. You know, I think they're both bad. But is John Hurt? I don't think John Hurt's bad. I think he's good.
Okay.
I think
we'll have to. That remains to be seen. We'll have to see.
Yeah. There was.
I think he's working with the Zygons.
No.
I think the Zygons are not going to appear in like 1 or 2 scenes.
They are not the main. Oh, should I say that? Is that yeah,
I think they're going to turn up, do something, and then we're going to have the main
they are,
situation happen.
They are slightly having. Should I say this? Yeah, I've seen a little bit of the script.
Right.
I think I mentioned
probably
that.
what will end up happening is at the end of the story, Billy Piper and David Tennant will turn into Zygons, and they won't have been there at all during the entire story.
It would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, there's an
Doctor Who.
Yeah, that thing. Before we get to talk about the Dalek movies, which is coming up, the David Tennant and Matt Smith was an interesting interview released after the Name of the Doctor went out.
Yeah.
And when they were talking about how their characters got on, but they might have bickered, which is good. But they said there's another character who's kind of bemused by what they're doing. I'm assuming that's John Hurt.
Yes.
He's bemused by his younger.
I mean, it was an odd time to actually release that clip of Tennant and Smith after the reveal of John Hurt, because it's like when they recorded it, it's like they couldn't talk about John Hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that seems like
even though everybody knew he was in it.
Not everybody.
Everybody, no, not
everybody reads the internet. Remember the millions of people that watch Doctor Who.
In fact, I think we even have people in here who were surprised.
The scrapyard. Yep. Trial of the Time Lord, one of the best Colin Baker 14-part stories out there. Actually, Terror of the Vervoids, I've got a soft spot for that.
Oh, me too. Good.
I think it's still terrible, but it's.
So I mean, I suppose
think terrible is too kind a word.
I suppose going back then to the start of the show, the game changer is the reveal of John Hurt and how he's going to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we don't know what the game changer is until the next episode.
Well, that's it. The game changer would be that he is actually
a real
doctor, and so the numbers get bumped, and then character options have to redo all their toys. The 11th Doctor, the 12th Doctor,
and Big Finish go.
But as I think some people might imagine, that if that is the case, then somehow by the end of the 50th anniversary,
it's all going to go back to
reset. Yeah,
because
if we look, and this is no disrespect to Mr. Stephen Moffat, but if we look at his first season in charge, Pandorica Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory? Did he write that?
Theory.
I think he did. Big Bang opens. Big Bang opens? No.
It's always about big things and then
Big Bang, the Pandorica opens.
Yeah.
It's reset.
With a big finish to it.
Wedding of River Song, everything's reset again. And this time, again, we have lots of things reset. Jenny dies twice.
Even End of the Asylum of the Daleks, everything's reset in terms of him the Daleks.
Yeah. He likes the old reset button.
Well, not even him, though. I mean, go back to Last of the Time Lords. Just reset.
Oh, well, it wasn't reset. A year was changed.
Yeah, well,
the universe wasn't reset.
As far as everybody else
is
concerned.
They just lost a year, man.
They lost a year, but they lost a year which was quite horrific for lots of people.
Well, you say that. So yeah, I would think that would be the case. Any more comments?
The Valiard was a desperate last regeneration that wanted to continue to live, master-like. That's from 19 Sci-Fi 73.
Anyway, are we done talking about the Name of the Doctor?
I think we're done.
I think so.
So out on a score of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Oh, I don't like giving scores.
I'd give it a B.
I'm going to go high just because I guess the disappointment of this particular series, we've actually ended on a high, I think. We ended on a high.
I was just very glad that the Clara storyline was resolved, I felt, in a way that I felt was satisfactory, made sense, and also was exciting, and I loved all the clips of the old Doctors in it.
Did you think, though, one of the things that slightly annoyed me about the Clara resolution is because you could see it coming a mile off. It's just the same as Rose and Bad Wolf. She goes into time, spreads it, blah blah blah. It's the same kind of thing. It
still, I felt, was more built up. It still felt more logical within the story, whereas in Rose and Bad Wolf, it was one of typical Russell T Davies's Duck's Ex Machina, where he just throws something in.
I thought you said Duck's Eggs.
Duck Egg Machina.
I think one of the problems that the Doctor Who is doing right now, and this is going to kill the drama of the story is that people die and come back alive
Yeah.
very, very easily.
I know. I don't.
Yes.
It's
And
Well,
it's
we
just
had
like-
Jenny killed in this episode
Twice.
and coming back.
Come
Yes.
I know.
Well, they all got killed.
I've also been very disappointed that Clara's skirts are not short enough.
Whoa.
I'm-
Out of 10?
Well, let's actually going to
What,
going
Clara's
to
skirt?
one more character because
Oh.
I mean, is this the final for Riversong? Is this her final goodbye?
No.
You don't think it was? Do you
No,
not
she's-
felt it
I
was?
doubt.
Nah, she'll be back.
Well, why wouldn't she? I mean, they've already established the Doctor can meet her with any point within her timeline.
And I think it's setting up for him to spring her from the library and bring her back to life. It's going to happen. She'll be
No
back.
one dies in Doctor
Alex
Who
Kingston
anymore.
will be back. She's such a big actress. She's in the UK.
I
It's
just
going to
want
happen.
when Dorian grows his new body and can start wandering around again.
That would be nice. So out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8. I'm
Oh.
going to give it quite high because, but then I guess because of the disappointment of the series,
Yeah.
it could only be quite high. I think in comparison.
Feel free to give us your marks out of 10, what you thought of the name of the Doctor. But we're going to talk about now.
Now, Cameron's all excited. He's been building up to talk about the new DVD release coming out.
Blu-ray release.
Inferno.
Oh, is it? Is it not out already?
That comes out on Monday as well.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? Inferno. We could talk about Inferno, can we? Should we?
No, let's talk about
No,
the Dark.
I need to watch.
Well,
it again.
before we do that, we've got some news that we can reveal regarding.
Am I allowed to reveal it at the moment?
Well, he said it's happening.
yeah, I know it's
the BBC
happening. It's
cleared
just that the BBC have cleared it. I know they're just working on their press. Okay, but what's happening is
I mean, how many people are watching this?
Dun, dun, dun,
26.
Breaking news.
breaking news at the convention. Return to the 11th hour.
Return to
next
the 11th
month.
hour. Star Fury.
Star Fury, which I'm running. Karen Gillan, Catherine Tate's going to be there. Neve McIntosh.
Yes.
David
David Bradley.
Bradley.
Anna Marina Marchina.
However you pronounce
Caitlin
it.
something.
Caitlin Blackwood.
Caitlin Blackwood.
Spencer Welding.
Spencer Wilding. I
Gary
can't remember all this.
Gary Russell.
Gary Russell. Whole pile of guests coming along. But one thing's on the Sunday is we're going to premiere first
World
ever
premiere.
world premiere
premiere.
screening of the reconstruction of episode 2 of The Ice Warriors. Now BBC to entertain along Dan Hall and Chris Chapman and some and the animators whose names I'm afraid I don't remember at the moment. The animators of the episode, they're going to be along. We're going to have a 10-minute edited down version of episode 1.
Well, I think it's the last 5 minutes he's going to show us.
Or was it last some of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be
To give
showing
context.
to give context to the episode, and then they're going to first ever screening of episode 2 of The Ice Warriors.
Episode 2 of the Ice Warriors. Now,
Yes.
I've been lucky enough to see quite a bit of the animation. It's very exciting. It's great stuff and great team. So they'll be there, world premiere, and they'll talk about it as well.
Yes. And plus, I know that Chris will be at the party afterwards, so you can have a chat with him then about it and try. And if you buy him a drink, you may even get to find out some of the secrets of what To Entertain has got planned for future Doctor Who releases.
Just get no idea. So that's exciting. That's coming up next month.
Yes,
End
of next month.
Any more guests?
No. Catherine Tate and Karen Gillan.
Yeah, but that's
costing
like
me enough as it is.
that's like last month's news.
What about these Talking Who guests?
What about them?
I've been rumours of Talking Who guests.
Well, Cameron's going to be a guest.
Oh, us?
Don't know about you, but I've still got to work out who you're going to interview on stage.
You know.
Probably the To Entertain people.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah, we can talk about it.
I could always get you to interview Catherine Tate just to really annoy Gary Russell.
Yeah, that would be funny. I like Gary.
Gary Russell's doing a convention in Texas this weekend.
I saw him tweeting
whether
that
we
he's
actually
going
see, I was actually going to go to that convention,
Were you?
and it's a Battlestar Galactica convention.
Oh my god.
And I helped them get half the guests there.
Oh, did you?
And I was tempted to go to it, but then I thought it's a trip to Texas. I couldn't really be asked.
Quite-
Why would I want to go to Texas?
Well, MCM Expo's this weekend in London.
Yes, I'll be at that.
You be going along?
Yes.
Oh, I might see you there.
Yeah. But
Might see you there
I
too.
was going to go to that, and I ended up being stuck in. I could have been hit by a tornado.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
That's
too
Oklahoma.
soon.
Yes.
Oklahoma.
Is it? Oh yeah. So that's exciting news.
But yeah, you've got London Expo this weekend. If you're living in London, you can go to that.
Even if you're not living in London, you can still go.
If you're living in Texas, there's Galacticon 3 taking place.
Are you a Battlestar Galactica fan?
Huge Battlestar
Oh my
Galactica
god, he
fan.
looked me in the eye and said huge.
huge new Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, actually, I
fan.
prefer the old one. You know, with what's the name of the
love the
dog?
old one.
Biffy, Smithy,
Daggett.
Daggett.
Daggett. Oh,
Daggett,
God, I
Daggett.
totally got it wrong. I love
I love the old Cylons.
The old Cylons are actually cool.
Beady beady. Oh no, that's
Twiki was pretty cool as well.
He was good.
I actually think the old Cylons look better than the new ones.
By your command. Great times, Battlestar Galactica.
It's all down to a good catchphrase. Exterminate, delete, upgrade, by your command.
Are these my trousers?
Biddy 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 biddy. You are eliminated from Doctor Who.
We need IDW to do the Doctor Who's Battlestar Galactica crossover with
I don't think they have the rights. I don't think they have the rights to
Cylons.
I don't think they have the rights to Battlestar Galactica, unfortunately.
If there's anyone else out there that's a Battlestar Galactica fan, please stop watching it. No, it's not on anymore, is it?
It's not on anymore, no.
I watched one episode. It was tedious. It bored me.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a brilliant show.
I think my first class degree in film would say otherwise, Mr. Cabrera.
Well, let's move on.
Game of Thrones.
Let's brilliant show as well. Let's move on to some real quality stuff. As in Doctor Who.
You said that sarcastically.
Come on, Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks' invasion of Earth. 2156. Which the Earth
2150.
2150. When the Earth still looks like London 1964.
Well, it had been blown up a bit. Come on.
Blown back to the Daleks blew London back to the 60s.
Coming out on Blu-ray.
Before we do that, let's explain. Doctor Who and the Daleks is a movie that came out in 1965, starred Peter Cushing as Doctor Who.
As was one of the time, it was very usual for popular BBC serials or popular TV series to be turned into films. And it shows you how different the film industry has changed. In the 50s and 60s, there were tons of films made by Hammer, Amicus, Ealing, that were purely for the UK market, would have hardly any release outside the UK and would make their money back.
Yeah.
And the idea of that today is
it's
preposterous.
Crazy, I know.
But almost every TV show had it's Moffat. Didn't like my joke earlier. And there was tons of TV shows and radio shows even. But probably one of the most
sitcoms.
Lots
of sitcoms.
One of the most famous, probably the Quatermass series, which had huge
made by Hammer
international,
Films.
but that had huge international success. Quatermass, but on the buses, Are You Being Served?
That's right.
Porridge. So many shows were turned into films. What was interesting about the Doctor Who film is it was only natural Doctor Who had a film about it.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, I actually find it very surprising that the other big sci-fi serial of the day, A for Andromeda, was never turned into a film. But pretty much every popular series, popular serial got turned into a film. I mean, the 1984 movie with Edmund O'Brien got made because of the Peter Cushing television version. There's so many instances like that. What was interesting about the Doctor Who one was, although it was obvious this was going to happen, was that they didn't go with the route with a lot of them do. It didn't have William Hartnell in it, didn't have any of the actors from the original series.
Interestingly, and I found this out recently, it was only because they were so busy on the TV series.
That's why. That's because if Doctor Who had been filming for, say, 6 months of the year or 8 months of the year, they would have had the original cast in it. But because Doctor Who was filming for like 45 weeks a year, they couldn't use the original cast. And also, the rights they bought from the BBC only allowed them to do certain things. So that's why the TARDIS looks completely different.
Or, as they call it, just TARDIS.
Yeah.
Because this is TARDIS.
Yeah.
Let's go to TARDIS.
And
they got the definite article.
And also, they didn't have the rights to the design of the TARDIS, the interior, and they didn't have the rights to the theme music. Right. So you have this terrible, typical British 60s cod jazz music.
It's a really lovely soundtrack.
It dates itself. But what is very exciting about it is that the look of it it's great. The production design, and there's Britain at the time was at the forefront of doing horror. There was so much horror movies coming out of Britain, so much comedy, but one thing we didn't do was science fiction films like that. So these two Doctor Who films are quite unique because there was very little proper science fiction coming out. Everything was like, Dracula, Frank, that kind of stuff. And so with these two Doctor Who films, and the production design looks fantastic, even though it's obviously on a low budget.
The one thing that gets me is that Doctor and the Daleks.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of that one, but Daleks Invasion of Earth 2150 AD I think is really good. It's a really tight.
Well, that actually works. But the big problem with Doctor and the Daleks is now it looks great. And the original Daleks was 7 episodes, which kind of drags. And this is great. It's chopped down to 79 minutes. The problem is it's played to a juvenile audience.
Yeah, and it's
too much so.
It's funny how they've cut it down, and yet it still drags.
Yes, but and also there's no sense of sacrifice or real danger. It's like that scene when they're having to leap across the cavern in it, and in the original one of the Thals guys ends up dying, and in this one he's saved at the last second.
Yeah, I know. And you just wanted him to die. He's such a wet rag.
And is it Roy Castle? Just plays everything purely for laughs. And it's very much when you're playing for laughs, it's like that Rent-A-Ghost kind of playing for laughs. It's not humorous lines, it's pratfalls all the time.
But I like what they did with the sequel. They made it slightly darker.
They made it slightly darker, it actually becomes a proper family science fiction film. Adults could watch this as well. It obviously had more money, because Doctor and the Daleks actually made a lot of money at the box office. Well,
the strange thing is, although the second one's better, it did less well at the box office, although it still did well.
It made its money back.
Yeah, and yet they didn't...
apparently they were toying with the idea. The producers of this film had the rights to for 3 films. And they had the rights to... originally it was the rights to the Daleks and the Keys to Marinus and whatever Terry Nation's next script was. And when they quickly changed the Keys to Marinus to Dalek Invasion of Earth and The Chase.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, although the Dalek Invasion of Earth was a box office success, did make its money back, because it made less money than the first film, they projected that a third film would therefore only make this amount.
Because something like The Chase...
was
a 90-minute movie would be great.
It was actually out of all of them, The Chase seems the one that probably would have worked even better, especially the mechanoid fight.
Yeah.
At the end, that would have been fantastic. Yeah. It's a real shame about, but the producer Milton Subotsky, or whatever his name was,
Subotsky,
yes, he was actually about 1966-67 was touting, because he had the rights to make 3 Doctor Who movies, he was touting he wanted to make a film called Doctor Who's Ultimate Adventure and have William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton in it.
Ew.
And he was trying to get that done, but of course nothing came of that.
So,
I mean, both these films are my childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. It's
your childhood?
Yeah, because they would always be on either at Christmas or at Easter
holidays,
another on TV. And it's just
I always remember them being on a Saturday morning on TV.
Another very interesting point was, oddly enough, their rights, the studio that made this film, it's now owned by a French studio, Canal Plus. Out. Was it who made it originally? Was it Amicus who made it originally?
It was Amicus, yes.
Amicus. But they actually they paid off, so they had the rights for Dalek merchandise, and it wasn't like because normally when you're buying the rights to something like that, it's under a time frame.
Yeah.
So that's very often why when you'll see merchandise released, you still see Dalek movie merchandise released
separately,
because they still have the rights to have Dalek merchandise done, but it has to be, with a claw and a bigger bait.
I love the movie Daleks.
And what I felt was great about the movie Daleks, and I wish they would do this more on the new series Daleks, was I love the whole thing of the fact that they had different ranks and levels of Daleks who were different colours. And they really went for the whole colour thing, just looked fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that was the first time.
Wasn't there there was a black Dalek, there was a red Dalek,
beautiful.
and a gold
Dalek.
Because
even in the 70s, when you're watching Dalek stories, they're still always the same colour.
Yeah.
And so the idea of multicoloured Daleks.
But ones that are at different levels. You got the Saucer Commander, the Supreme Dalek.
The other thing is, that was the first time people had seen the Daleks in colour.
In the movies,
you had to go to cinema to see them in colour.
And it must have just been quite spectacular.
Yeah. To cast our minds back.
So I'm looking forward to seeing these
on
Blu-ray.
You were about 20 when they come out.
Obviously, I've never seen in high definition.
Well, but also the other good thing is it's coming with the documentary Dalek Mania, which I've got to say is a cracking little documentary.
It's Kevin Davis.
Kevin Davis. It's the guy who did 30 Years in a TARDIS. Yep. I actually think this was his best. He also did another documentary which I think is brilliant in its own right as well, on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, he's very good.
Which is worth the price of the deep just for that as the extra.
As a side note, I've met Kevin, and he's a lovely guy. He actually worked on the TV series of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as an animator. He was,
who's the guy who did all that?
Yeah, and I was kind of gobsmacked to be sitting with someone who'd... Side point. So the films are out on Blu-ray on Monday. I got the chance to watch them because I got them sent. They are beautiful, and they're exactly how you think they're going to look. It's like, this is going to look brilliant because it's so colourful and so gregarious.
It was really interesting because I when the DVDs I showed to my 10-year-old
What's a
godson,
DVD?
and he watched them, and he immediately picked up there were the remakes of the Hartnell stories, which I'd shown him on VHS.
Good. Yeah.
And he actually said, this must be an alternative timeline, Doctor.
Already it's like, how do we fit it in?
Yeah, how do we fit it in?
As you say, Dalek Mania is on it, and it's great watching that again. It's got Michael Wisher in it, and one of his very last, if not the last thing he filmed.
But as you're saying, they're great family films, and they are great movies to show kids. You know.
And it's very interesting interpretation of the Doctor from Peter Cushing.
Yeah, he's an Earth-based scientist who made
I'll tell you what I absolutely loved on the Aztecs DVD. Was it the Aztecs or was it on the Reign of Terror when they had the guy from Dad's Army?
Oh, I thought you say something else.
No, it's from the guy from Dad's Army who was Don't Panic guy playing the Doctor. Michael Bentine. And it was
Clive Dunn.
Clive Dunn, that's it. The first time Doctor Who was spoofed on a TV show, and it was brilliant watching this comedy version of Doctor Who.
I thought you were going to talk about how there was a Doctor Who DVD come out. I can't remember which one it was, but it had behind-the-scenes footage from the Dalek movies.
Oh, right, yes.
And it had an interview with Gordon Fleming. And it had his son, Jason Fleming, the actor, which most people say, Jason Fleming's his son. Or who's Jason Fleming? But it had a really good behind the scenes thing. So it's kind of weird, It's kind of weird that that's on a classic series DVD as opposed to, but they got the rights to it.
Yes.
Blue Box 99 asked what extras are on the Blu-rays.
On the Blu-rays,
Dalek Mania.
There's Dalek Mania. That's the main one. It's about an hour long, and it's a great documentary purely about the popularity of the Daleks in the 60s. But
very much within that, it's very much the popularity of the Daleks within the context of those two movies.
I mean, it's really... it does mention the TV series, of course, but it's mainly talking about how the Daleks are popular in movies and by them. So there's a nice little bit about Dalek merchandise, which is good. There's a couple of featurettes on the restoration process of both films, which come from different stock, which, if you're into that kind of thing, great, but it's very detailed. But it's nice to see the effort. There's a brief interview with a guy whose name... I can't quite remember, but he's not involved. He's an author, and I couldn't quite figure out why he's in it. He just likes the films. There's a brief interview with Bernard Cribbins. So the weird thing about these features is, after you watch them on Blu-ray and you get these special features, they don't look good. The quality.
Well, Dalek Mania was shot.
It's 95, I think it was. And there's a commentary which was on the original DVD with Jenny Linden and Roberta Tovey, and moderated by
didn't Roberta Tovey actually release a single?
Yes.
I'm going to spend Christmas with a Dalek.
No, she did.
Who is Doctor Who?
Doctor Who, yes. Christmas with the Dalek was somebody else.
Because for me, those
so that's the special
actually, Roberta Tovey plays Susan.
Yes.
And they've reduced the age quite a lot.
Yeah.
She's like about 12, I think, in this one.
Yeah. A funny story. This is a bit of inside knowledge. I didn't put this in the interview that's coming out that I did with Bernard Cribbins. Bernard Cribbins revealed that he met Roberta Tovey last week, and he didn't know who she was, so they were in a room together, and she said, and who are you? And she said, I'm Roberta Tovey, we did a film together. He's like, oops. But he said, but she's a little bit older than she was. He hasn't seen her since.
50 years ago.
Yeah, but he talks about working with Peter, and he said that him and Peter had a very good laugh, especially as one of the Dalek operators as an Australian man. And then Bernard treated me to an Australian accent as a Dalek.
In Invasion of Earth, I mean, as a kid...
Can I just point out, I'm going to be a pedant, it's not Invasion of Earth. It's Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD.
I'm just
in case somebody says
I'm just shortening it for,
Okay.
I also used to remember the Target novelisation of the original TV series.
Oh yeah, it's a great
had,
cover.
Had a cover by Chris Achilleos of a Robo-Man
from
from the
movie.
movie.
From the movie,
that's a great cover.
It's a great cover,
Yeah.
but it's a cover for the movie, not for the TV
No, but
series.
when you're a kid and watching, and when you see the first Dalek in Invasion of Earth, and it comes out of the water, and it's such a simple thing. It's really, it's just a Dalek.
But the thing is,
it's just like, whoa.
But what was it doing in the water? What was it doing?
It was hunting.
It was
frogmen,
hunting sea devils.
Yeah, it's like, what was it doing in the water? Oh yeah. But one of the things I love about that story, and it's in the TV,
and it's a classic moment of British cinema. That moment.
And I also love that sign. It's forbidden to dump bodies in the river. That's such a great sign. And that's referencing Crimson Horror because that's what they're going to do with the Doctor.
Yeah. Yes.
Little fact. So that's all. The Blu-ray doesn't actually have that many special features, but they really are worth it just for the versions of the films. They're just absolutely glorious.
And later next month we'll also be getting Spearhead from Space
in Blu-ray.
Spearhead from Space on Blu-ray, which I had the pleasure in helping out on one of the special features.
I'll make sure to skip that one.
I'm not actually on that one.
The Blue Box 99 says, loved these films and grew up with them always on Easter at Easter too.
They've got the Channel 5 have them now, and they play them a couple of times.
It's bizarre that it's based on a BBC series, and yet it's kind of like Channel 4 used to have them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, great times. So if you haven't seen them, I thoroughly recommend getting the Blu-ray. Either the box set or buy them separately. If you're only going to buy one, buy the second one.
Do you know that if they would have done a third one, do you think they would have introduced the Gold Emperor from the comics?
I honestly couldn't say.
Because that was all part of Dalek Mania, wasn't it? The Dalek stories from the comics, and having their own sort of Skaro stories in comic.
I think they would have just used the Daleks that they built for the original.
The Emperor Dalek was quite iconic.
Yeah. But still, I think they would have still just used the same Daleks they'd already built to save money.
Yeah, well, whatever.
They would have been spending too much money building mechanoids.
Yeah. Oh, they'd have been good. Chase would have been a good film.
Yeah,
it would have been a good film.
Yeah. Still not too late.
Yeah, I did.
It is. Peter Cushing is dead.
Oh yeah.
Or is he?
Yes.
Yes.
Or is he? He would have been, if he was still alive, he would have been 100 later this month.
Yeah. Classic.
Good times.
I mean, look, Peter Cushing. I mean, this guy.
Well, let's talk about him as a Doctor.
As an actor as well, because he's
not as an actor.
So many iconic roles.
He's actually probably one of Britain's greatest screen actors. The thing I will say though about him as the Doctor is he puts in a good performance. But it's still, and what I do like about him is he's not copying William Hartnell.
No, not at all.
And actually, to some extent, who knows? Maybe this put a thing in the producer's head that somebody else can play this role. But he does play it, especially in the first one. It's not on the level of Roy Castle, but it's still played whimsical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas the second one, there is a marked difference in his performance. It's much more, not much more downbeat, but it's certainly all the jokes and laughter have gone. But I love his performance. He's a lot better than some other Doctors on television I could mention.
No, don't bother.
But I love him in the role. He really goes for it. He really puts it in, and it's a very doctorly performance, especially in the second one. The first one is a bit light, and it's especially the opening 5 minutes are kind of horrendous. Kind of they're sitting there in the house. Roy Castle comes to the door.
And he's reading the Eagle.
No.
But of course, having Susan even younger, makes him even more grandfatherly in the movies as well.
Yeah,
which he plays really well.
He does, and brilliant in Star Wars.
And brilliant in Star Wars, when he turned to the dark side.
He wasn't a Sith. He was just an administrator.
I wonder if David Tennant will be in the new Star Wars. I wonder if actually we will see any Doctor Who actors in the new Star Wars
I think we'll
saga.
see a lot of British actors. That's for sure, because they're filming in the UK.
Yeah.
And
it just hasn't been announced, but it's just been revealed. The first non-returning actor is what's that? Is it Jonathan Rhys-Meyers?
Yeah.
Hold on, that's not official. That's not just a big rumor.
That's not official. It's all, but kind of like the sources.
It's come from good sources.
It's come from sources, and I kind of like it has a ring of truth to it.
Oh God, I don't really like him.
You don't know what he is yet. He could be behind some...
No, that'd be all right.
Do you
then.
like Hayden Christensen?
Yep.
Oh, come on.
God.
Great in that film Shattered Glass. If you haven't seen it, great film.
I saw him in theatre.
The theatre.
Yes, down the road from here.
Ah,
Yes.
good times.
Yes, this
Cameron's
is
going to be a movie star tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know that?
Oh,
Let's not get into my personal
This
life.
is what you need all these girls for.
Steady.
Yeah.
Peter Cushing, great actor, Star Wars play.
Well, I'm going to go buy those Blu-rays. I have to
Yeah,
say,
you
I'm
should.
gonna-
I will be buying Inferno first, but I will get these at some point.
Inferno also out, the John Pertwee story
Yes.
on Monday.
I have to say, of all the stories to put for a revisitation, this is an odd one because in terms of extras, the original Inferno release is one of the best Pertwee stories for. I mean, the second DVD on it is absolutely crammed with extras.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what they're going to do on this one. Of course, they're using a different colour technique on this. I actually prefer, if it's anything like the Claws of Axos, I'm going to prefer the original.
Yeah.
But basically, the original colour copies, video copies of these were destroyed. And the BBC own in their vaults black and white film prints or American video copies. And the American video copies were converted into British system for the first DVD release. And I thought the what they call it, reverse conversion, standard conversions, or RSC, whatever it's called, the technique. Well, I thought the results looked very good, but they're now re-releasing it. What they've done is they've taken the black and white film prints and put the American thing over it. And so that's a different way of presenting it. I wasn't that impressed on the Claws of Axos when they did it that way on it, but well, I'll have to reserve judgment for when I see it. But Inferno's one of my favourite Pertwee stories,
And then Mind of Evil's coming
Yes.
out after that. So.
and I've got to say, it's astonishing that Inferno is a 7-part story, and considering how many 6-part stories lag,
It's still
This
quite a tight story.
this is because it's this brilliant idea of setting 2-3 episodes in a parallel universe, and that's what really makes and actually by having that section in a parallel universe, the Doctor's allowed to lose. This is a story where the Doctor, in one part of the story, the Doctor fails and an entire planet dies as a result of the Doctor being unable to save the day.
So when are we back?
Well, next month.
Next month?
Yeah, we'll
So
work out
we're just
a date.
gonna
We'll work out a date.
we'll put it out
absolutely.
there.
Put it out there on Twitter.
This-
Maybe you guys should do a live broadcast from the 11th hour.
We'd love to if we can get the internet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Would absolutely we'll
Would
do
we?
that, I think.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. It's a weekend though. That's not
fine.
what we do.
That's fine.
People got things to do at the weekend, don't they?
Hell, I go to my convention.
Yeah. So we'll be back at some point.
And yeah, there's the news. We're going to be showing at the convention an episode. You do realise if they were showing that same episode of the Ice Warriors at the BFI, it would the entire thing would sell out tomorrow. But with this one, you can come to this, you can see the Ice Warriors, and you can meet Catherine Tate and Karen Gillan.
And meet a nice warrior.
And an Ice Warrior. You can actually meet a new series Ice Warrior.
Yeah.
Who's also on Game of Thrones as well.
That's right.
And you can meet Cameron. And I've still got to work
You
out.
might even be interviewed by Cameron.
Me and Cameron have got to have a chat about which stage panels
Yes.
who we will be interviewing on stage.
I guess I'll do them all apart from Tate and Gillan. But Gary Russell's going to be there. Now, I found out a very interesting fact about Gary Russell. If you don't know who Gary Russell is, he's written loads of Doctor
Star
Who.
of the Famous Five.
Yeah, he's written a load of Doctor Who fiction, a load of Doctor Who audios. He was a script editor for Sarah Jane, Torchwood, and briefly on Doctor Who for the specials. Big name in the world of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
You know, he's a bit of a legend, done a lot of reference work, still does the encyclopedia, and he's a lovely man too. I found out, I was in Cardiff a couple of weeks ago hanging out with some of my BBC Doctor Who chums there, and I found out that Gary Russell auditioned for the part of Adric.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I know. I was like, whoa, my mind was blowing.
I'm going to have to tease him. I'm like, Matthew Waterson beat you
Waterhouse.
out. House, whatever.
Yeah. Whoa.
Probably one of my favourite ever quotes to do with Doctor Who was Logopolis in Logopolis on the DVD commentary when Adric first appears, and you hear Tom Baker go, "Oh, I did a film for Pier Pablo Pasolini, and he would have adored Adric."
Oh, that was a good Tom.
Yeah.
That was a good song.
I was actually doing my Brian Blessed.
They're interchangeable. Matthew Waterhouse was at the BFI a couple of weeks ago for Caves of Androzani.
Yeah.
Very quiet he was too.
Didn't he introduce Tom Baker on stage?
He introduced the Robots of Death. He did a brief introduction.
Oh, did Caves of Androzani? Really? He was at
that. So he was on a panel with Sarah Sutton, Janet Fielding and Peter Davison. It was hilarious.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my god, I missed that. Is it on YouTube?
There is. There's a 20-minute clip of it. It's not.
I'll have to watch that because of course Janet Fielding and Sarah Sutton and Peter Davison so famously got on well with Matthew. I like how everybody got on so like Lala Ward as well. They all got on so famously well with him on the show.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. But he seems nice. Yeah, we do.
Doesn't he live in America now?
He does now. Although he's been at the last two BFIs, so I think he must be hanging around because it's Doctor Who year.
Yeah.
So we will be back in June, introducing Talking Who as
Introducing Talking
Who as John Hurt.
I guess we'll be talking about Colin Baker's because it's June.
I might not be available.
I might not be available either. No, we're joking, of course. We're not. So we'll be talking about Colin Baker and probably some news.
Well, I'm sure there'll be news coming out.
I'm sure there'll be lots more news.
Well, there's news about the celebration in November coming out. So apparently,
and more news about these miniature figures, which don't fit with your character.
Well, are they? Do they fit with the Star Wars?
Yes, it's 3 3/4.
Yeah.
So now you can actually have a Doctor Who Star Wars
battles,
crossover.
Yeah. Wow, I am sitting with two nerds sitting with two.
Says the man with the Chewbacca bag. Where is it?
According to Dave Prowse, there were lyrics to the Star Wars theme tune.
Star Wars.
What's the Star Wars? Maybe a fortune. Paid off the mortgage. Bought a new car.
I don't like Dave Prowse. He's quite a grumpy man.
Have you had his autograph before?
Yeah.
Did he say Dave Prowse
is Darth Vader? You're not allowed to do that anymore.
I've been with him at a convention. I was sitting in the bar drinking with Peter Mayhew and Michael Sheard, Doctor Who legend, lovely Michael Sheard, and Jeremy Bulloch, another Doctor Who legend, but also a Boba Fett. And Dave Prowse is slightly grumpy. And
I just loved it when, not for me, it was another convention. We're doing a charity auction, and they had a picture of the lightsaber duel, and it was signed by Dave Prowse. Dave Prowse is Darth Vader, and they posted it to Alec Guinness saying, we're going to sell this for a charity to raise money for blind dogs, can you sign it? And they got the picture back, and he sent another bunch of pictures of him from other movies signed, and he had signed this picture alongside Dave Prowse. Alec Guinness is Alec Guinness. Almost as bad as John Hurt is.
Introducing wow, Alec Guinness is Alec Guinness.
Yes.
Come here, little one. That's my Alec Guinness impression.
But, okay, so that's it for this week's Talking Who.
Thank you for watching.
Oh, but there's somebody else here.
Wait, what?
Introducing someone. No, that's a terrible joke. Oh, this we should have done. We should have got somebody to come in at the end behind us, and we all turn round. It's like they made the promise of Talking Who. They broke the promise,
They broke the promise.
Yeah, so we're back in June talking about Colin Baker and the new Doctor.
News and DVDs.
Matt Smith leaving at Christmas.
I'm sure we'll review Spearhead from Space in Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And
get a copy.
Well, I'll get a copy. I'm alright, Jack.
Some of us aren't on the list, so.
Mind of Evil's coming out on DVD soon, which I actually narrate a documentary on it.
Really?
Yeah.
I enjoy those documentaries.
I was looking forward to that DVD until now.
Well, screw you both in the face. It's goodbye from me, Cameron K. McEwan.
It's goodbye from me, Sean Harry.
And goodbye from me, Elisar Cabrera.
We've been Talking Who. See you on the next one.
You have been the internet.